Okay, that here to right. One top column here, it's page top left column in the bottom part, slightly towards slightly off the top of page 88. That here time listam divrei. That time usually don't explain what they're saying. The hearts are very broad, but I maybe males concerns. They understood with short words. I should say a short amount of words. That's why we have the capacity, I like we put it, to push them around, and to remove them from the simple meaning. Our hawk of my screen to say this is what we're talking about over here, or this is what they were saying. In other words, we have this tremendous license with the words of Tanoim to do things which seem sometimes even outlandish. The Amorim, they're the opposite. They explained. They didn't leave things cryptic and hidden. That's why you can't push the words and change their indication. The Mora himself, it was coming upon him to explain. Since he didn't explain his words, you gotta learn them instead of according to their simple meaning. Because of Tshuva Lagon, I go through Rav Hagon, the next word is rubbed out by me. What's the next word?
Mitoch diuk.
Mitoch diuk. Shehi ein shu ein dachustam. I like to know Amoraim. We don't infer from their words like you do from a Mishnah, or for that matter, a Rashi or a Rambam. It's a fundamental principle, right? You can be more of a diet from a Rashi or a Rambam than you can from the word of an Amora. Because that's not what the Amora is there for. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, these great principle, which is the inferences can be made from Mishnayos, Rashis, Rambams, to a lesser extent from other Rishonim, and to a lesser extent, evidently, from an Amora. Because they, in fact, came to elaborate. Because their point was to elaborate, therefore they elaborated more than we would find in several other sources. I just made that up, but I think it sounds good. Okay? Kosovo Rosh Masechah Shabbos. Hamora Darka Farishatan. Api Sheno Sober Lokomoso. I'm running to the courtesy of explaining to them, even though they didn't hold like them. Prepare Gimel the Berachos, Kosovo Hamora Yesh Lokol Shabbos Beraisos. Hamora has the power. I'm not sure what he means. I think what it means is that Hamora has the power to call a Braisa Meshubash. To say, this Braisa is distorted. But if you take it literally, it means the Hamora has the power to distort a Braisa. Okay. No, he says the second shot, where he knows the Braisas and knowingly changes them. In other words, Mishabish, he's not using it as a pejorative, but rather as a verb, generic verb. He changes the Braisa according to what he knows to be, in fact, the case. But if Amora said his own svara, nimsa Braisa look up, say you find a Braisa which is not going like him, Braisa some kind. We rely on the Braisa. You don't say that if he didn't have a Messiah to change the Braisa, we're not going to assume we're going to change the Braisa just because he had his own svara. Amora Amora can pass like an individual Tana and argue on the collective Tanoim. Sheyada Braisa or Mishnah Kanal. It's like Sheyada.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know Mishnah Braisa as before. Taste you and Sheyesh some more Braisa say a Tana. Okay, then it's possible. When Amora has a Braisa to me, say yeah, his position he can argue on a Tana. Slatas. What's the next word?
Shin Gimel.
Shar Gimel?
I have
It's a word or Rosh Tables?
It's Rosh Tables. Shin Gimel.
Shar Gimel, okay. Amora Cholik Tana, Bina Drashos Vagoros. Yeah, well, that's not a big deal. We know even Rishonim argue with Tanoim when it comes to Drashos and Agoros. So certainly Amora can argue on Tana when it comes to a Drash or Agadata.
Okay.
Okay. Also, Taisus Merki Yoshin Divar Master Reeve Hule. How the Bible made my time of the Reeve Mishum the Lace Brera. That wanted to say that Rabbi Huda holds their Lace Brera. So that's a line which clears several places in Jas. That's why I know why that's why Rabbi Huda. I've got time behead you Mishum Tiasa no. Even though it says explicitly that the reason he gave, this is a famous case, you want to be Marv Shumas Meister before on Shabbos. So what you do is you say whatever's left in the bottle after Shabbos, that's being Shumas Meisters. You can't be Marv them before. So I wanted to say that the Rabbi holds because that he doesn't have Brera. But as soon as I'm talking about the Brera, you have to say that retroactively, whatever's left in the bottle is clarified to be Shumas Meisters. And Mari rejects that. It says, no, it's because he's afraid that the bottle is going to break. But there's an thing, the Beraisos says explicitly that he says it's because the bottle is going to break. So what's more playing around with, right? More is playing a game. Well, it says, yeah, he's prayer, but what do you mean? It says in Beraisos, Shumkia Sanod. The
Kavase.
The Kavase? Ashlan Tuva. Shein Talmud Choshev Ikar Osatam Amafurish by Mishnah. Wow. It's not just the Beraisos, it's a Mishnah. So the Mishnah give a reason, and Amora says, I don't care. It's not necessarily the only reason or the right reason. It's kind of shocking, but that's what the Beraisos says there. So the halacha is primary. That's such in stone. The opinion, I should say. The reason given by the Mishnah is not necessarily the ultimate reason. Okay? Okay, pretty shocking. There are several Tanoim and Amoraim, I should say, several Amoraim, who are called Tanopolig. The only one we know, the most famous one, perhaps the only well-known one, is Rav. Rav had the capacity to argue on a Tanoim. We know that that is the case. But he's not necessarily the only one. Rav Tanopolig. I'm reverting to my regular Gemara because I'm getting tired of trying to read the screen here. So Rav was a Tana, and he, to the extent that he can argue, it doesn't appear in Mishnayos. He can argue on Tanoim. One second. Rabbi Chia Tanahu. Rabbi Chia is also a Tana, and we know that Rabbi Chia was the primary Talmid of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, so it stands to reason he was a Tana. They're both like Tanoim. They can argue on Mishnah and a Brisa. It's only we only say this when we're in grave difficulty. But both Rav, who's well known, and Rabbi Chia, also who is really Rav's like almost Rebbe, so they can argue Mishnahs and Brises. Because of Torah Chata, because of Rashi Ber Gimel, Amar Abai, Ema Rabbi Chia, Perush Rashi, Lo Te Matani Rabbi Chia, the Mashna Masnisa. Don't learn it that Rabbi Chia said a brisa, which is indicate that he was a Tana. It was Rabbi Chia, and he said in his own. Rabbi Chia, Tana v'Amorahu. He has both levels depending on the situation. Sometimes a Tana, sometimes an Amora. When he said it on his own as a statement Amar, then it has the level of a Gemara. Gabi Rebbe, Shabbat Beraisos Umat Mishnah. Gabi Rebbe, really? Shabbat Beraisos Umat Mishnah. I think there's a word missing here. I'm not sure which Rabbi we're talking about because it's not Rabbi here in Rossi.
I don't know. I mean,
no, it is. Okay,
he was the last of the Tanaim, so more or less.
Okay, Shabbat Beraisos Umat Mishnah. Ziri Maisi B'Gemara Dvar B'Loshen Amora. Down the Masaz of it is Idmar Rabbi Chia. Idmar means language of Gemara. Okay, B'Lomar B'Loshen Tanya Tan Rabban. Parakam the Pesachim. I'm Rabbi Yitzchak Azal Hashmai to the Rebbe. Loshet Shmaitzum Yuchel Ma'amorim. Okay? What can you do? I stand corrected. You're right. Rabbi Anosi sometimes has the status of an Amora. It's pretty shocking to me. You seem very cool with it. Okay.
Look at footnote
What?
Kaf in Hagot HaGriv.
Yeah, it's very important, right? But see the Gankin Chizki Atano Polik. She's also that bridge generation. I think also, if I recall correctly, we find also Rabbi occasionally Rabbi Yochanan argues that I'm Tanoim. I think maybe even once or twice that Shmuel argues I'm Tanoim.
Okay.
So even though it's not put down here, I have a memory from elsewhere that because they were all members of the bridge generation, they had certain privileges which later on they didn't exist.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. A mema is what Amora says as the name of other Amoroi. Call Miha, right? Miha. Okay. Another principle, we gotta wait 60 years to find out. It's not fair. Why didn't they teach us this? Call Meha Brisa. And when it says from Ha, it's a Brisa. Mehacha, if it says Mehacha, Shmaitza, it's a Morek statement. Did you know that?
No.
Good. Makes you feel better. Okay.
But you've been at it longer than I have, so you have.
Okay, we have to rub it in. Thanks. Shar Sifri the Beirab. When it says that Hainu Sefer Bamidbar at Sofa Torah. That's Medrash Tanoim, well, actually Medrash Halacha, I should say, from Sefer Bamidbar until the end of the Sefer Torah. Umashu Korim Sifri. Let's see, Sifrei, some people say. Safa the Rab Gufa, Gufei Hainu Torah Spanim. Says Safa the Beirab. No, it's not Sharsi for the Beirab, but Safa the Beirab, that's Torah Spanim, which is the Medrash Halacha on Vayikra.
Okay.
Okay. Custom say Begufei Halachos, Simon Tepe Zayin. Rice custom of Losh and Turn Rabbani Yadula Kokama Mishnah. Turn Rabbani means it's a well-known Mishnah, well-known Brisa. I thought, I don't want to say you thought, I thought there's no difference between Tani and Turn Rabbani. So now we see there's a difference. A Tan Rabbanan is a more famous Brisa. The Brisa had levels of fame.
Okay.
It was one as a mission. Rashi Perakal Tinus. Lashon Hatanoim Mudafka B'Lashon period. That was the one principle. Next principle. Lashon Tanoim Mudafka B'Lashon Arami. They always speak in Hebrew, not in Aramaic, except Milashon stars. When they're talking about a star was in colloquial. Utanoi based in. And I assume a condition based in when basically like writes something into a star, they make some sort of condition that's written in Aramaic. But this break my meeting hate so pay Rashi because they don't like this principle. Because whoever this is, I don't remember what this is. My lush me by Masnixon with his Kamashon of Bryson, what we didn't learn from the Mishnah. Yesh me perusha. One of the two explanations. Echad, my the shir masnisa time, but Braisa Balachi. What was begun in the Mishnah was completed in the Braisa, and that's halacha. Inami else hali perusha. Ain't halacha the Braisa. Well, it's not the Braisa. We should the tani by my the talo tani be masnisin. Not masnisin. It says what the Mishnah doesn't say. Okay, so when it says kamashon by Braisa, it can mean diametrically opposite things. I mean that it's an interpretation of the Mishnah, it's halacha, or it's what the Mishnah came to, as he's saying here, there's no proper word in Hebrew or in English for this, to bavorn. Did you ever hear the word bavorn before?
No.
Bavorn means to preempt or preclude. But it means that when if a Mishnah bavorns a svara, it means it's preempting that svara. It's saying that svara is not true. Okay? Somehow the word preclude, preempt, it's somewhat similar to the word lafuke in Hebrew, but it doesn't really, or Aramaic technically, but or lotzi in Hebrew, but they don't have that flavor as the word bavorn.
Okay.
That bavorn has a much more definitive ring to it. Okay, so he says, but the Mishnah either comes to explain and elaborate the Mishnah. The Mishnah comes to Bavor and the Beraisos. I say the is not the Beraisos. Rabbi Lo Shna, Rabbi Chia Minalo. If it doesn't come from, if it's not authenticated by rabbis, including the Mishnah, Rabbi Chia couldn't have said it. It's not a Bar Samcha. We reject the Beraisos. Ein Shem Rashi Tosis. Okay, we are up to the next part of the Mavo. If you want, we can start from there. We can start the next part.
We can go a little bit more. Okay,
She'ela hibaya. We're back in the text. She'ela is an inquiry. Mimena, she shares call. Sometimes it was, that's interesting, a question of a group to a group, right? Call not meaning your community, but a group. When that's what it is, it's a boilahu. Mimena shelas call a group asking individual be bo mine. That's the pin. Some of them are from an individual be bo mine. And when there's a question, the halacha goes according to the answer. A tshuva comes on these questions, and it's sustained as psak halacha. I guess if it's verified as psak halacha, that's what sustains it. Okay, so now we have to go to the Kitzur Klallim again. Stami b'Yeshiva Talmud. I just lost my place. So it's one, but some members of the yeshiva asking other members of the yeshiva, or chachamim who are a group who are analyzing this halacha in depth. So it's members of the yeshiva or a group of chachamim. Whenever you have a question, an inquiry in the Gemara, look at the sides of the question. Do you know that?
No.
No. You buy it only when.
Sometimes the Gemara is explicit. Is it X and then it's Y, or is it Z and then it's A?
Right.
Gemara asks questions like that.
That's what he's saying.
Okay.
Yeah, right? But it says you might not realize that. You have to note that when you learn the buyer, that there are two sides. They're schooling and they're balanced. Because if he has one of the sides, X seems to him more likely to be true than Y, he'll mention it.
Okay.
Not sure, I think, in other words, the person who answers the question or the group who answers the question will say it's like that side. Not 100% sure about that. This side ma mechaber poshit also side. I think the questioner.
The questioner would say that that's the pashtus.
Right. I think you're right. The questioner would say that. B'nikraim chelkei hasoser. I know what that means.
They contradict each other because it can't be both ways, right?
I guess so. But sometimes the question asks a question where he doesn't know at all. If the thing is mutar asur, it shows stam. Such a question, you don't look for sides. That's not a smart question, or not a question of a smart person. So therefore, I guess you assume. You have to see a question in the word lashon of yiboilu, that it's a smart question, and therefore you have to figure out the tooth studying.
Okay.
Or you have to assume that they were tooth studying. Kasher you study a mefurashim, when the sides of the question are obvious. He's not gonna be concerned to explain them. If they're concealed, then the questioner will specify them. Or the Gemara itself will specify them. When it tells us the facts of the questioner, I assume.
Maybe when he talks about Heichatimsa.
Right. Mefarish Osam, when and explains them, there must be some phenomenon which is involved in the circumstances which require the circumstances to be mentioned. Okay, interesting. Sometimes the question is obvious in Beraisos, but that's not the question. The question is what's the halacha. En regilus lemibai bakara milsa betray duchte. It's not customary to find that the same question is asked twice. I don't know. I'm a little bit surprised at that because it's true. Sometimes we find questions asked somewhat differently, but sometimes questions seem remarkably the same. Okay. Sometimes he could have made asked the question immediately on the first scenario, which is on the first premise, which is laid out, but we wait until the end of the premises are laid out. In other words, we can let a number of premises or scenarios enumerate until we finally come to the questions. Yes, sometimes the question is left with unresolved here, but it's resolved elsewhere. Sometimes when the pashta means the person who's poshet the ibaya, he resolves it, right? Ibaya is the question, it's the resolution, the passion gives the resolution. Or ibaya associated with a passion in Mishnah, or somebody attempts to give a resolution, he's contradicted from Mishnah or Beraisos. We can ask him, Mishnah Beraisos, my boiling. If you knew the Mishnah or the Beraisos, why did you ask the question? Right? Well, in other words, either the passion tells him he answers the Mishnah Beraisos, or he rejects the passion based on the Mishnah Beraisos. You know the Mishnah Beraisos. What are you asking? This is the way it works. You know what the sugya usually literally means?
No.
Sugya means the walkthrough.
Really?
Yeah. I'm going to try to remember the Aramaic root precisely. It's from Sagi. Tiske, like Tiske means to walk. Okay, I'm trying to remember the exact. I don't. Anyway, so that's he's saying the sugya is this the mahalas. The sugya was a kach. He had two possibilities in this question. Not two matters, not two possibilities, two matters. The other one was simpleton. But that wasn't what I was asking, right? And that because I knew that. And you shocked me by giving me the wrong answer. That's why he's rejecting his words now.
Okay.
In other words, the questioner knew the Mishnah Beraisos, and he's saying that's not what I was asking because I knew that Mishnah Beraisos. And anyway, you're wrong about that.
Okay.
Okay. You want to go on here or want to stop here?
No, we can stop here.
Okay, so at the bottom of this column, right-hand column. Okay.
We just finished it. We'll start at the top of the next column next week.
Yeah. Okay, this is good stuff. I'm glad we're learning it. Wouldn't want to come up to Shemaim and not know any of these principles. Okay.
Remember it going forward.
Yes. That's always the challenge. But you're right. This actually should be elaborated and made into a much larger and accessible work. This is true. I have to think about that. Okay, Shkoyach. Have a good week.
Maybe we can work on it together somehow.
Okay. I'm game.
Take care.